Welcome to Podnutz Daily for June 16th, 2008. It's Monday today. Hope everybody was happy to go back to work today. I know I was. Okay, let's start off here. I'm going to talk about a laptop that I was working on Friday. And I asked you guys for some help on it because I couldn't figure out what it was. It was a Sony VAIO. I think it was a VGN 260. And it was giving me a problem. Every time I installed a video driver, the thing would blue screen in the middle of a reboot and never allow me to get into normal mode. The only way I could actually get into the computer was to go through safe mode. Now, I messed around with it more today, and what I did was, it was one of those blue screens where the computer would get, when I rebooted, the computer would get halfway through the boot process, it would blue screen for a split second, and then it would bring you back to the beginning, start over again. It would reboot itself. So I never got to see what the blue screen said. So, today I'm like, all right, let me see what the error on the blue screen's given us, and then this way we could at least find out if we could figure out the problem from that. So if you go into the control panel in Windows XP, and we did this through safe mode, the control panel, into the system, and then, God, I don't have a Windows machine in front of me. It's system. I think on the advanced tab and startup and recovery, there's a checkbox, and it says, check this box, uncheck this box if you don't want the computer to reboot during a system crash, or keep it checked if you want the system to reboot during a system crash. I guess because Windows does have a type of repair function. So if the computer does, it's kind of built into Windows, it's able to repair itself upon reboot in certain situations. That's why I guess that box is checked by default. Windows can do that. If something goes wrong in Windows, it reboots itself. Sometimes it can correct itself. So I guess that's why that box is checked. But the down point is it never allows you to see when it blue screens what the actual error is. So people like me who are trying to figure out how to fix it can't do it. But I guess for the normal, Joe off the street, he's not going to understand what the blue screen says anyway. So we got to the blue screen, it gave us an error, and then it told us the actual, I think the DLL that's causing the error, or the driver that's causing the error. And it was an ATI something rather, ATI 2, can't remember. But anyway, I Googled that particular term and found out that I wasn't the only one having this problem, which is usually what happens when you do a search on Google for what problems you're having on your computer. There was all kinds of fixes out there. Some people gave fixes that they said worked sometimes and other times didn't work. They said Microsoft never announced that this was a problem. ATI never announced that this was a problem. So even though lots of people were having a problem with this, nobody ever owned up to saying that they're responsible for a faulty driver or whatever. So anyway, there was a fix where you go into the hardware, device manager under hardware, and change one setting having to do with the CPU to PCI bridge, something like that. Anyway, it's online. I found it. And I changed that setting, rebooted the computer. It worked fine, booted right into normal mode. Video was perfect. Computer was fine after that. And the funny thing was, before we actually got to that point, I missed the beginning. I thought it might have been something having to do with the BIOS and a video setting in the BIOS somewhere. So this is before I did the fix that I just told you about. So earlier in the day, we went to the BIOS, and I just loaded the default settings for the BIOS, and the computer booted into normal mode just fine. So I thought that the problem was fixed. Then all of a sudden, it said driver error. It snapped out of it, and then it just crashed. So even though I thought I had it fixed by restoring the defaults, I didn't. But I have handled problems in the past by like goofy boot problems and things like that, where the computer won't even post. Actually, the computer would have to post, but if you go into the setup and go into the default setup defaults in the BIOS, I think sometimes it says setup fail-safe defaults. You know that the computer should boot because the settings in the BIOS are set as default as they could possibly be, and it should be able to boot at that point. So if you're in there messing around with the BIOS and your computer stops working, just set it back to defaults. You might find that might fix the problem. Had an on-site job today. A woman said that she was using her computer. The computer decided to install and download and install SP1, so she let that happen. She said installation didn't work. It was actually unsuccessful, and then a lot of her devices stopped working, like her printer and scanner. So my dad actually went out and did this job. So he was there, trying everything to get the printer and scanner to work. Now, the device manager said they were fine. When he uninstalled the printer software and reinstalled it, everything looked fine. It just, every time he tried to print something, he would get an error about a database, something having to do with a database. Same thing with the scanner, getting errors on the scanner too, as well. So not too familiar with, it was Vista. It was Service Pack 1 on Vista. Not terribly familiar with Service Pack 1 on Vista. I thought maybe if we did a restore back to the point where Vista decided to install SP1, we might have some success. We tried that, still no problem. Now, the thing was, we told the person, look, if it installed half of SP1 and then it crashed in the middle of the installation, maybe we should just try installing SP1 again and let it get all the way through. And she was a very particular, picky type of customer and didn't want to actually install SP1 with us there without Microsoft on the phone. So she wanted to go and call Microsoft and do it herself, and then if she needed any help after that, was going to call us back. So that was set in her mind, and she wouldn't let us install SP1 no matter what we tried or how we rationalized with her. So that was a waste of time. Anyway, I'm bringing that up because SP1 might... I've never had any problem, I don't think, with Vista on when I installed SP1. But apparently there is some problems with SP1, like this woman had. It should have installed fine. I don't know why it crashed in the middle of the installation. It's causing driver problems and peripheral problems. So, okay, next computer worked on today was a Dell laptop. It was an Inspiron 600M. And... normal installation, Windows installation, nothing special about this computer. Had a Celeron, didn't even have a Centrino or anything like that. It was a simple job. He was having major registry problems, and he didn't care about anything on his machine, so we just decided to do a reinstallation. So, put the XP disk in and started it up. And this is a very simple problem we were having. I guess it might have complex areas if you don't spot it, but it was taking very slow to run the Windows setup. And usually if that happens, it's either the hard drive or it's either the CD-ROM. Now, because the CD-ROM was making clicking noises and making loud, like vibrating noises while this was happening, it was obviously the CD-ROM. So, simple fix. If you have a computer that's running, you try to install Windows XP, and it's just CD-ROM is just loud, dragging. It made it through the installation, but, the CD-ROM should be replaced at that point. He probably won't be able to watch movies or anything like that. So it was dying on its way out. It's not recommended that if you do have a dying CD-ROM that works sometimes